If you were to look at a map of your life and look for one of those little signs that says you are here, you'll probably find that you are on the edge of many things. What I mean is that instead of being the central player in the movie of your life, you've become a supporting character. You may be, at best, the sidekick. What has happened increasingly is that your voice has gone unheard. You've been overlooked for a promotion. You are invisible within your own family. You find yourself friend-zoned when you try to make new romantic relationships, and you can't seem to shake the cloak of invisibility that you're submerged under. What is needed are some discrete steps to snap you out of this predicament. And I'm going to suggest some of them to you. In fact, what I'm going to suggest is a friend zone buster. But when I say friend zone, I want you to think wider than just trying to gain the attention of an attractive other person. When I say friend zone, I mean that you are exhibiting symptoms of some kind of insecurity or some kind of inner turmoil, which, yes, manifests itself as friend zoning, but also manifests itself as being overlooked for promotion, being inaudible within the workplace, hearing your ideas recited back to you with somebody else taking credit for them, that kind of thing. What we need to do is we need to set up a program to pivot from invisibility and friend-zoned into visible, charismatic, and authoritative. And these are skills that can be learned. But in order to learn the skills, you have to have some kind of blueprint. One of the problems of living on the edge of your own life is that you have been literally marginalized. And part of that means that you have lost the initiative. You're starting to imagine that this is how life is, was, and always will be. But that's not the truth. The truth of the matter is, the bottom line is where you draw it. And what we're going to do together with a 4-step program of videos is draw that bottom line and then use that as a benchmark, if you don't mind me mixing my ideas, in order to raise and elevate your performance overall. So if you find yourself on the edge when you want to be in the center of your life, if you find yourself marginalized, if you find yourself without a voice, disenfranchised, ridiculed, overlooked, all of those things. If you find yourself in that predicament, I'd like you to consider that you can develop skills to crush those problems. In order to develop the skills to crush those problems, you're going to have to be able to evaluate what they are, understand what they are, understand some of the mythology, and then draw out a roadmap and start to develop strategies which are going to allow you to triumph rather than just tread water. I will lay out a couple more of the steps that we're going to need in order to crush the friend zone, and I'm going to take us to, hopefully, a great outcome which enables you to live the life you deserve. If you find that you're not living the life you deserve, it may be that you have become the unwitting agent in that process. So, if you have become the unwitting agent in this process, you're going to need to understand how it's happened, how you've been painted into that corner, and what you can do about it. To take you through the process briefly, what we're going to be discussing over the next 4 or 5 videos is some of the misconceptions that you may have been laboring under, and some of the ways that you've been corralled into accepting a passive existence. We're going to look at wising up and destroying some of the mythology that surrounds being a man in the modern world. We're going to look at the benefits of taking charge and taking ownership over our lives and how we can do that. We're going to look at strategies and ways to step up and take charge of our own lives and controlling our environment a little bit better. And finally, we're going to look at how to nail that in, consolidate, and draw up a blueprint for a life better lived. And so, If you find yourself on the edge of your life and you want to be at the center of your life, if you want to stop being an NPC, if you want to stop being a bit player or a sidekick, and you want to take charge and to be recognized for better things than you have been, then stick with me for the next few videos and we'll talk about what it takes to do this. I'm treating the next 4 or 5 videos as a mini course. I will also provide resources to go with the videos. The first one that I'd like to recommend to you is The Easy Way to Overcome Nice Guy Syndrome book, which you can find in the link. But going forward, I will put together some resources and exercises which can accompany all of the work that we do together. Let's see how together we can nail our colours to the mast. Let's see how we can reclaim autonomy and take charge of our lives and stop being overlooked, stop being marginalised and living on the edge of our own existence and find ourselves where we deserve to be, which is placed smack bang central to our own existence. Stick with me and together we'll do great things. Okay, my friends, I'm not going to mess you around in this part 2 of the How to Overcome the Nice Guy Syndrome series. I'm going to talk about how to work out if you have it, if you have the dreaded nice guy syndrome affliction. So, in order to not muck you around, I'm just going to let you know now that if you click on the links below, you can go to a Google Docs and you can do a questionnaire. Or if you so desire, you can download a PDF, all of which has got some great information for you, which is all part of this unofficial course. So to business. There are certain things that can betray the nice guy syndrome to you. And those include terminal agreeableness, which is largely a feminized trait. They can be the favor paradox, which is where you can't say no to people. You say yes to everybody and you expect your output to be reciprocated and it isn't. Also, you have pedestals and idealization, where you're going to pedestalize people. Now, this doesn't have to be about sex and romance. It can be that just generally you pedestalize people. And then you've got the schedule leak. Your schedule or your schedule is often hijacked by other people's needs, and you find yourself running around like the proverbial, putting out fires on behalf of other people who are not, frankly, willing to do the same for you. Then you have the inability to call a spade a spade. By that I mean you state your intentions in flabby, misaligned and hard to detect language because you don't want to put your cards on the table and you don't want to state your intentions too clearly. Not having an integrated approach to life. You haven't got your stack locked in. You haven't defined what your values are. You haven't diagnosed yourself and worked out whether you have nice guy syndrome or not. That's why the questionnaires that I'm providing for you, see the links below, could be quite useful to you. What they're going to do is they're going to give you some basic guidelines about where you are on the nice guy syndrome spectrum. You might be one of those people who has totally surrendered their stack in favor of other people. You may be a borderline nice guy. You may just have small areas of your life which you need to improve on in order to get locked into your proper masculine stack. And what we're going to do is we're going to build. We're going to look at diagnosing what the issues are, how they manifest. I'm going to talk to you about some of the red flags today that you might want to crush out of your system and just keep an eye on going forward. Then, further down the line, we can look at some of the mythologies surrounding nice guy syndrome. We can talk about defining our own terms, and then we can talk about how to lock in and preserve our own stack once we've realized what it needs to look like. So Stick with me for a little while, and we'll talk next about some of the red flags that you might want to look to as you go forward. Having done the questionnaire and having diagnosed your situation, let's look at some of the red flags that are going to alert you to the resurgence and the return of your nice guy syndrome. And so, going forward, red flag number 1. You find your schedule defined by other people. You find yourself running around attending to the needs of other people because you simply can't say no. You've been so much of a nice guy and you're trying to accommodate other people so much that now they're taking advantage. So red flag number 1, when you find that your schedule is not being met because it favors other people's needs, that's a red flag you need to stamp out. How so? Well, the first thing you need to do is to establish what your schedule is and then live and breathe by your schedule. So, eliminate red flag number 1. Stop allowing your schedule to be hijacked by other people. Red flag number 2 is stop tolerating bad behavior from others. In fact, stop rewarding bad behavior from others. What's happening here is that other people are getting away with things that they shouldn't be getting away with. The mere acceptance and acquiescence of these things is the same as offering a reward for bad behavior. I'm not suggesting you get into fisticuffs or fights. What I'm suggesting is that you outline what your expectations are at any given time. Scheduling is a great way to do this as well. And having established what your needs are and what you're prepared to do, be prepared to say no. Once you start doing that, you're going to become like kryptonite to those people who wish to take advantage of your nice guy syndrome. It's time to eliminate that. It's time to lock in some positive stack. Red flag number 3 is that you tend to be agreeable all the time. And because you're agreeable all the time, not only can you not say no to people, you tend to accept slights, insults, things that compromise your own values, stacks and philosophy. Just let them ride. You have to be more prepared to stand your ground, establish where your line in the sand is, and to state it. You don't have to be rude about it. In fact, quite the opposite. If you can smile and say with quiet confidence, actually, this is what I stand for, and then follow it up with what you stand for, that is a great way to get your stack back. Practice this on strangers. Practice this on people in the supermarket, behind the counter. Practice using the idea that what you stand for is valuable to you and you're prepared to stand by it. So if you find yourself becoming too amenable, too agreeable, crush it, stop it, nip it in the bud, and watch out for that red flag. Red flag number 4 is that you don't establish boundaries. And as a result, people encroach on your boundaries and they take advantage of your inability or your apparent inability to set and establish your boundary. People invade your emotional space if you allow them to because you haven't defined clear boundaries for yourself. So red flag number 4 is, if you find that your boundaries are being encroached upon, it's time for you to reassert yourself and step up. And of course, what this requires is for you to have a good look at yourself and work out where your boundaries lie. And we will look at that more going forward. Number 5 is pedestalizing. And by that I mean putting other people up on a pedestal and giving them more credit than is their due. Now, what might happen is that it may be because they are attractive. It may be because they have status. It may be because you simply admire them. Now, there's nothing wrong with admiring good, solid traits in people from whom you can learn. But the problem with the pedestalized approach is you tend to develop a bad habit of always acquiescing, always deferring to somebody else. And the bad habit that is formed causes you to excuse this behavior all the time. So, red flag number 5, if you find yourself pedestalizing somebody, worshipping them from afar or from a near, it's time for you to pull down that red flag. In our next episode, we will look at how to detect a friend zone gaslighter. We will learn to detect some of the habits and characteristics of people who are setting out to exploit your good intentions, to keep you locked into your nice guy syndrome. So, follow me please, and we'll talk about that a little bit more next time. In this, the third session in the How to Overcome Nice Guy Syndrome series, I want to talk about how you can get gaslighted, or more importantly, how you can recognize that you're being gaslighted, because one of the main problems that the nice guy has is that they put themselves into situations where others can gaslight them quite effectively. And one of the reasons for this, of course, is that they don't know it's going on. They never really thought about it. Not in those terms, anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you 5 cues, or 5 ways, or 5 red flags, if you like, to be able to detect a gaslighter when you encounter them. So let's go for it, shall we? First one, sweet double talker. And by that I mean that they can say nice things to you, to your face. They can be sweet, and they can be kind, and they can be encouraging. But unfortunately, when push comes to shove, they don't follow through with the kinds of results that they're encouraging you to expect. So when push comes to shove and you want to see some kind of reward for the effort that you're putting in, unfortunately, the sweet double talker is going to make you second guess your own sanity by telling you that that's not what they really meant when they said so and so. One of the key elements of the gaslighter, and one of their key skills, is being able to make you doubt your own sanity. To say one thing, mean another, and then, when you expect a result from what they've said, they're going to try and convince you that you're losing your mind. The sweet double talker. You're also going to get, as part and parcel of the sweet double talk, you're going to get mixed up emotional cues. And so, when you are together, you may get lots of intimate signals, eye contact, smiles, encouraging nods, leaning in, behaviors which are going to make you think that you are maybe in with the chance, or maybe that the rapport you have with that person is greater than it actually is. This is all part of a strategic approach by the gaslighter. They want to keep the milk and honey coming for free, so they're not going to do anything to jeopardize that. However, those mixed up emotional cues are also going to come with a sting in the tail, because, as per usual, if you want to try and draw on those mixed up emotional cues, you're going to get some very different emotional cues instead. The trap will snap closed, and you will find yourself in a state of confusion, wondering, was it just you? Did you mix up the signals? Did you mistake? Were you misled? Who can say? The gaslighter is going to capitalize on all of those confusions because it keeps you coming back for more. Then, of course, there's a private and a public mismatch. You may have lots of intimacy or encouraging signs from the gaslighter when you are talking to them one-on-one, but as soon as other people come into the mix, then suddenly they change totally and they treat you in a different way. They affect distance, they keep you at arm's length, and they may even make in-jokes with other people which you are not party to, leaving you out there on the periphery, looking in, wondering what the heck has happened. The gaslighter is very good at divide and rule. They're very good at isolating people and making them feel isolated, only bringing them into the fold when it suits them. So, private, public mismatch, something to watch out for. Drop a comment. Tell me if you've had any experiences yourself of people who've engaged in gaslighting behavior with you. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can be work-related, it can be familial, it could be your own spouse. Now, another behavior of the gaslighter that you need to be aware of is the testing but no reward system. Gaslighter loves to test your affections, loves to test you and see if you're going to come forward with some kind of goodies for them. It may be things you bought, it may be the little gifts that you impart, it may be the compliments, it may be the constant barrage of affection that you give to them. However, they're very good at receiving these things, but not very good at rewarding them. In their mind's eye, the fact that they are allowing you to offload your generosity onto them is reward enough. But if you try and draw on the tests you pass, or if you try and draw on the things or the generosities that you show, you're going to find there is no reward forthcoming. In short, you're going to be kept on a tight leash, neither being given nor expected to take anything more than the bare basic crumbs of affection that the gaslighter is going to throw your way. A final thing I'd like to mention to you that you can consider when you are seeking to detect gaslighting behavior is that they will maintain plausible deniability. Plausible deniability is the classic gaslighting strategy. Again, it's going to make you feel like you're losing your mind, your sanity. You're going to find yourself in situations where you're led up the garden path and you're led to believe that certain things are going to come to pass. However, when you call in those favors, or you ask for those things, or you even indicate you expect any of those things, the gaslighter is going to plausibly deny that they ever suggested, meant, or intended any of those things. In short, the gaslighter is going to keep you on a tight leash, waiting for crumbs of affection, expecting you to provide the largesse, the compliments, the props, the presents, the time waiting, all of those things, all of those energy-hungry elements of life. The gaslighter is going to expect those of you. But when it's time for you to draw down on any of those wonderful things that you feel you're giving, the gaslighter is going to simply make you think you're losing your mind for even expecting any of those things. Let me know in the comments if you've experienced any of this kind of behavior, if you've been caught up with a gaslighter, or if you are caught up with a gaslighter even as we speak. I'd love to hear your comments, and I'd love to know how you feel about your predicament. Bear in mind that being able to detect and to spot these behaviors and realize that they are being played upon you is a major step forward that you can take today. If you're going to regain your stack, if you're going to reclaim your own autonomy, you're going to have to start to understand that some people are doing a number on you, and it's your job to stop them from doing that. So let's go. What if I told you that how you speak to yourself and how you refer to your world around you is going to be a major way to overcome your nice guy syndrome? What I'd like to introduce today is self-talk. We're looking at a radical intervention to try and address the way that we describe the world to ourselves and to others in order to be able to regain our stack and to overcome nice guy syndrome. I started this session and the planning of this session with the words radical honesty in mind. What I wanted to do was to try and improve people's radical honesty, the way that they see the world and themselves and their relationships with other people. Then I started to realize that being a nice guy is actually far from being nice. At best, it is being a wolf in sheep's clothing because you're trying to manipulate situations in your own favor. But at worst, it is claiming victimhood and higher moral ground when in fact you are seeking to cause other people to like you for all the wrong reasons. So let's have a look at how we can crush that essential dishonesty, reclaim our stack, and start talking the talk. What we're looking at here is a major pattern interrupt. And so in order to interrupt this pattern, I'm going to lay down a challenge to you. Can you go for 24 hours without using any of the following terms or phrases to describe yourself, other people, or the world you're living in? Here are some of the victim phrases that we unconsciously or inadvertently use. We tend to say, "This happened," or "You caused me," or "See what you made me do." Phrases like this are going to betray an essential lack of personal responsibility. There must be better ways, surely. Phrases like, "I should," "I can't," "I'm going to," "They won't let me," "Circumstances get in the way." Phrases like this, which we drop all the time like pearls of wisdom into our conversations, are actually betraying our own inner lack of stack. Let's have a look at a couple more before we look at some of the antidotes. For example, do you ever find yourself saying, "I need to do something," or "I'm stuck," or "this or that person triggered me"? All of these are you surrendering your autonomy. What you're doing by using these phrases is suggesting that you're not in control of things. So how can we get back into control of things? While I'm here, have a look at the descriptions below because I provided some easy to read PDFs, posters, and guidance for you so that you can have a look at how to reclaim radical honesty. As I said, I started out planning this as a radical honesty foray, but then decided that the way we speak to each other or the way that we refer to the world is going to be a better way to intervene, a better pattern interrupt, if you like. So now you're getting 2 sessions for the price of 1, really. You're getting this information about this pattern interrupt, and I'm offering resources for you that you can use to expand that knowledge and apply it, including the Seeker's Pledge, which is your way to overcome nice guy syndrome by making a pledge to yourself. Again, let's get back to the language we use, and let's see how we can improve that language in order to overcome our nice guy syndrome. Often the biggest single word you can use to reclaim your stack is, of course, no. Simply learning how to say no to things without apology and without justification. But other words that you can use to reclaim your stack or terms are such as "I choose," "I decide." These kind of terms are now informing the world around you that you are taking personal charge of the things that you decide to do and that you choose to do. And of course, another one of those big words that we can use to regain stack is yet. If you find yourself saying "I can't," add the word "yet" on. "I can't yet." because that's showing that you're having a growth mindset about you and that you are now willing to take charge of the decisions that you're going to make in order to get things done. Start thinking in terms of how you are in charge of your own responses to things. Instead of "this triggers me," start saying "I reacted to." Instead of putting the power of how you act onto other people and other situations by referring to them as triggers, start referring to them as things that you react to and the responses that you create as the things you do and decide to do in order to overcome the challenge. So what we're looking at here is a major reframing of how we talk to ourselves and how we speak to the world. This is going to have a double effect. A, is going to inform you personally that you have decided to take charge, and B, is going to project a more confident, self-assured, in charge and capable persona to those around you. Instead of relying on the nice guy, approval-seeking mode, you can start working on your own personal honesty, and instead of seeking the approval of others for your validation, you can now start seeking your own personal approval of yourself. And believe me, the validation will come quite naturally as a result. And so what we're seeking essentially is a sovereignty shift. A shift in which you reclaim sovereignty over your own behaviors and your own actions, and this is displayed in how you speak. Instead of "look what you made me do," you can now say "I am the primary source." Instead of being a passenger in your life, you can now become the driver. Instead of being somebody who seeks externally for validation, now you can be the person who stacks their own internal, personal validation. And as a result of these things, you will shine through better. And you won't have to rely on nice guy strategies in order to, quotes, get your way. The final part of the pattern interrupt I'd like to suggest to you is that you learn to love social friction. Learn to embrace it. I want you to start thinking in terms of how you can own your own stack, control your own autonomy, speak truth to power, and become somebody who has overcome nice guy syndrome. So thank you for sticking this long with us. What I decided to do as I lay awake in the early hours of the morning thinking how to present this, I thought, what about a circle? Imagine that you are at the center of a circle, and at the periphery of that circle there are 4 ideas: virtue, vice, principles, and honesty. Imagine if your role in life, for stacked existence, was to maintain yourself dead center in that circle. I believe it was Rudyard Kipling who wrote, "If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat both those impostors just the same." By this I mean, if you can look at the ideas of virtue, honesty, principles, and vice, and you can keep all of those at equal arm's length, not be too proud, not be too overbearing, not be too judgmental, and not be too unaccepting of other ideas. If you can maintain dead center, then you are graduating to claiming your true self. Because one of the problems with the nice guy syndrome is that it is essentially dishonest and vice-ridden. It has the vice of pride, and the dishonesty is that you're trying to be something you're not, and you're trying to get your own way by manipulating people. And so the nice guy syndrome tends to be devoid of principles because it's opportunistic. You'll do whatever you can to get what you want. You will pretend to be nice because you think that's what's going to work. And of course, that is essentially dishonest. So what you're going to be doing all the time now is bumping against the edges of the circle on the inside. You're bumping against your principles. You're bouncing against your honesty. You're rebounding off vice, and you are now trapped, boom, 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 like a ping pong ball, perhaps a pinball, bouncing against the exterior of this circle, when really you need to be magnetized and equal inside the center, sitting dead center if you can. I'm not pretending that sometimes we don't stray from the center. I'm not pretending that sometimes we don't fail in our honesty or our principles or are not attracted to vice. I'm not pretending that. What I'm saying is that if you have a clear sense of what it looks like to be central and graduated in your own identity, then you have a basic roadmap or a guideline to assist you. Because overcoming nice guy syndrome isn't just about being brutally honest all the time, or having your principles worn on your sleeve all the time. It's not about rejecting all forms of vice, and it's not about living a monk-like existence of pure virtue. We all have to live in the real world with real people. But if we can center ourselves and we can maintain that stack, neither falling prey to our own folly and pride, or falling prey to dishonesty or vice, then we can start to emanate and shine with those principles and those ideas. Because if you can find a way to place yourself smack bang central to those ideas, then you can maintain. So have a think about where you are. Have a think about where you might be on that circle. Are you veering towards something? Are you veering towards vice? Are you using vices to paper over the cracks? Are you indulging in vice-like activities which are going to cause you to further move away from honesty? Are you indulging in situations or predicaments or engaging in strategies which run counter to your principles? How do you know? One way to find out, of course, is to work out what your principles are. And one way to do that is to sit down and start thinking in terms of how would you like to be treated, and how do you think other people wish to be treated? Remember the old maxim, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. It's more of a reminder that some of the boring stuff you learned as a child is all actually quite true. You can walk tall if you know what your virtues are, what your principles are, what it looks like to be honest, and how to avoid the excesses of vice. Place yourself smack bang central in the middle of that circle whenever you can. And if you find yourself veering towards one of the edges, or even bumping against one of the edges, it's time to take stock and find a way to get that equilibrium back. Remember, treat triumph and disaster as imposters. Treat them both the same. Maintain a stoic outlook. There's nothing that I've said here which is new to this world. A lot of it might be found in Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus. It's a stoic principle. It means disassociating yourself from some of the curses of vanity and pride. And when you do that, you're going to represent yourself as a much more attractive, charismatic, and magnetic personality. But as long as you continue to fawn over people, kiss their asses, creep them up, find ways to try and ingratiate yourself, the longer you try and do that, the longer you're going to remain at odds with your own sense of honesty. And as a result of that, people are going to detect it. Remember, liars always embellish. So if you're coming up with fancy tales and stories to justify why you act the way you do, you might want to confront the idea that you're lying to yourself, and by implication, you will be lying to others. and that will be picked up on. So if you want to crush your nice guy syndrome, it's time for you to start thinking like a grown-up, and therefore start acting like a grown-up. And if I may throw another quote in there, remember that when you were a child, you had childish things and you thought like a child. But now it's time to put away childish things. So just to remind you, think of yourself as being in the center of a circle, and on the periphery of that circle are these things: honesty, vice, principles, and virtue. And if you can maintain the center of that circle as you go through your life and as you encounter people, you're going to become a very attractive person for all the right reasons. Stop trying to be attractive by using all the wrong strategies. It's not working for you, and it's essentially dishonest. It's time to man up or woman up, and it's time for you to shed some of those childish things. And so we've made it to the final consolidation stage. Now I'm just going to run through 4 or 5 ideas today. I'm going to give you the rubber band metaphor. I'm going to talk about schedule leak, your center of identity, neurology, and how you can lock in a new way of doing things. So let's have a look at some of these ideas. The first one is rubber band. A rubber band presents such. Now, the interesting thing about a rubber band is that it can be stretched, it can be left flaccid. What we want to do is we want to establish our stack and our identity like that, bearing in mind that occasionally you will be stretched, but your job is to bring yourself back to that tension. That's your new stack, that's your new identity. That's how you can use a rubber band metaphor. Just to be aware that on occasion, people are going to test you, but you want to get back to where you need to be. Now, getting back to where you need to be is important because other people may be invested in keeping you nice. And we don't want to keep you nice. What we want to do is keep you locked in, focused, and determined. The nice guy syndrome is just that: flaccid, amenable, agreeable, but ultimately a doormat, and it's no way to live. Gain your confidence, achieve your tension and maintain it, realize you'll be stretched. And that's how you can use a rubber band metaphor to maintain that stack for yourself. And just remember, you will be tested, but hold the line. Secondly, that your schedule is going to be leaking if you're not careful. Schedule leak is a real problem because other people will demand your time, and they will demand your time with little regard to your needs. If you're concerned about that, one way that you can overcome it is by taking control of your time, commanding your time, and breaking down your schedule so that at any given time you know exactly what it is you're supposed to be doing. You know the old adage, if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. Well, the point of that is that a busy person will make things happen in the time allotted, but not flounder around finding things to do because they have no better options. What you need to do is schedule your time so that you always have a better option. Third thing we talked about and touched upon is the center of identity. It's about placing yourself smack bang in the middle, the epicenter of how you want to present and be. And bear in mind that at the periphery and the boundary of all the circle, there are going to be conflicting ideas. It may be principles that you wish to achieve, it may be vices that you wish to avoid. If you find yourself veering towards the boundaries and bouncing off the things that you don't want, it's time for you to regain. A little bit like this, it's time for you to stop hitting the edge and getting yourself back central, and forget about that. And if you do that, and you lock that in, and you make a pledge to do that for, let's say, 60 days, even 30 days, honestly, but make a pledge to set a time and schedule your time so that you remind yourself and audit yourself and reaffirm yourself on a daily basis. You can start small if you wish. You can start at 7 days, go up to 2 weeks, go up to a month. You need about 30 days to lock in the neurology. And then after 30 days of constant attention to this, you will find that your brain circuitry will start to adjust itself and start to operate according to the expectations that you're placing upon it. Remember, it's already operating on expectations placed upon it. But unfortunately, if you're being a nice guy, the expectations that you're placing upon your neurology are to be that. So lock it in. Make a decision. So, fellow seeker, hang on in there. Maintain your frame. Claim back your stack. You can do this. Anybody can do this. It's simply a case of having the right tools and strategies. And it is my belief that I've provided a number of those for you over the previous 5-6 videos. So I'm going to put them all together so that we can lock everything in. And I welcome you to share the journey. And in the meantime, if you look down below, I'll put a link. I'll put a link over here somewhere. And if you want to, you can download the link. And if you're able to face this task, I'm sure you are, because remember, whatever it is that you dare to do or dream, you can begin it now.